They poisoned him with enough cyanide to kill 5 men. He kept eating. They shot him point blank in the chest. He got back up. They shot him 3 more times. He crawled toward the gate. They beat him with steel rods. He was still breathing. So they threw him through the ice into the frozen river. And according to the autopsy, he drowned. This is the death of Grigori Rasputin, the man who wouldn't die, the monk who terrified an empire. And tonight we're investigating what really happened on that winter night in 1916, when Russian nobles tried to kill the unkillable. Act 1. The man who controlled an empire. December 16, 1916. St. Petersburg, Russia. The Russian Empire is crumbling. World War I is devouring an entire generation of young men. The people are starving. Revolution is brewing in every corner of the capital. And at the center of this chaos is a peasant monk from Siberia with wild eyes and an even wilder reputation. Grigori Rasputin. Look at those eyes. That's the face that haunted the nightmares of Russian aristocracy. Because this man, this barely literate peasant from a village no one had ever heard of, had somehow become the most powerful person in the Russian Empire. How? Through the Tsarina. The Empress Alexandra was desperate. Her son, Alexei, the heir to the throne, suffered from hemophilia. In that era, it was a death sentence. The slightest bump, the smallest cut, could cause internal bleeding that doctors couldn't stop. But Rasputin could. No one knows how he did it. Hypnosis, herbal medicine, divine intervention? The historical record gives us no clear answer. But multiple times, when the Tsarevich was on death's door, Rasputin would arrive and the boy would recover. The Tsarina became convinced he was a holy man sent by God. She wouldn't make a single decision without consulting him. And through her, Rasputin effectively controlled the Tsar himself. He appointed ministers. He influenced military strategy. He made and broke careers with a word. Russia's nobility was horrified. This filthy peasant, this drunk who openly bragged about his sexual conquests, who smelled of body odor and cheap wine, was running their empire into the ground. Something had to be done. Act 2. The Conspiracy. Prince Felix Yusupov was one of the richest men in Russia. Handsome, educated, sophisticated. Everything Rasputin was not. He couldn't stand watching this peasant mystic destroy his beloved country. So he assembled a team of co-conspirators: Grand Duke Dmitry Pavlovich, a member of the royal family; Vladimir Purishkevich, a right-wing politician; Dr. Stanislaus Lazovert, who would provide the poison; and Captain Sergei Sukhotin, a military officer. Their plan? Invite Rasputin to Yusupov's palace under the pretense of meeting Felix's beautiful wife. Then kill him. Simple, right? They had no idea what they were about to face. December 29, 1916. Just after midnight. Yusupov picks up Rasputin personally and drives him to the Moika Palace. He leads him down to a specially prepared basement room. The conspirators had spent hours setting the scene. Granite-topped tables, plush chairs, a bearskin rug, a roaring fire. They wanted Rasputin comfortable, relaxed, unsuspecting. On the table, sweet cakes and Madeira wine. Rasputin's favorites, all of it laced with potassium cyanide. Dr. Lazovert had crushed enough cyanide crystals into those cakes to kill a dozen men. The wine glasses were coated with it. They were taking no chances. Upstairs, the other conspirators waited, listening. Their job was to stomp on the floor occasionally, pretending to be party guests, keeping up the ruse that Yusupov's wife would come down soon. Rasputin sits down. He's relaxed, happy. He starts eating the cakes. 1, 2. 3. Yusupov watches in growing horror. Rasputin asks for wine. He drinks. 1 glass, 2 glasses. Nothing happens. Rasputin asks for more cakes. He's commenting on how delicious they are. He asks Yusupov to play the guitar and sing for him. Meanwhile, Yusupov is losing his mind. The man has consumed enough cyanide to kill an elephant. He should be convulsing on the floor. He should be dead. But Rasputin just sits there, eating cakes, drinking wine, asking for music. 2 hours pass. Upstairs, the other conspirators are panicking. What's taking so long? Why haven't they heard anything? Has something gone wrong? Yusupov excuses himself and runs upstairs. The poison isn't working, he hisses. He's eaten everything. He's drunk everything. He's fine. The men stare at each other in disbelief. This isn't possible. It defies every law of nature they understand. Dmitri hands Yusupov a Browning revolver. Then shoot him. Act 4. The first death. Yusupov goes back downstairs. His hand is trembling. The gun is hidden behind his back. Rasputin is still sitting there, perfectly calm. Almost as if he knows something is about to happen. Yusupov suggests Rasputin look at a crystal crucifix on the wall. It's very beautiful, he says. Rasputin stands, turns, looks at the crucifix. A gunshot sound is heard throughout the castle. What happened? Yusupov shoots him in the left side of the chest. Point-blank range. Rasputin cries out and falls backward onto the bearskin rug. His eyes are wide. He's gasping. The other conspirators rush downstairs. They gather around the body. Dr. Lazovert checks for a pulse. He's dead, the doctor pronounces. They did it. Against all odds, with poison failing, they actually did it. Rasputin is dead. They decide to wrap the body in a cloth and throw it in the river. But first, Yusupov needs to retrieve Rasputin's coat from upstairs. The other conspirators go up. Yusupov stays behind for a moment, looking at the body of the man who terrorized Russia. And that's when it happens. Rasputin's left eye twitches, then opens, then the other eye opens. Yusupov freezes in absolute terror. Rasputin's eyes lock onto his, and according to Yusupov's own testimony, those eyes were filled with diabolical hatred. Act 5. The second death. Rasputin lunges up from the floor with a supernatural roar. His hands grab Yusupov by the throat. Yusupov screams. He tears himself away and runs for the stairs. Behind him, Rasputin rises to his feet. A man with a bullet in his chest cavity, who should be dead, is standing up. Felix! Felix! I will tell everything to the Empress, Rasputin roars. He staggers toward the stairs. Up the stairs, into the courtyard. Yusupov is in the palace, screaming, "He's alive! He's alive!" Purishkevich runs outside and sees Rasputin crawling across the snow-covered courtyard toward the gate, trying to escape, trying to reach the street where someone might help him. Purishkevich pulls out his own revolver. His hands are shaking so badly he misses twice. The third shot hits Rasputin in the back. The fourth hits him in the head. Rasputin finally collapses face down in the snow. The conspirators gather around the body. They're no longer rational men. They're terrified. This thing that won't die has broken their minds. They start kicking him, beating him. Yusupov takes a steel rod and smashes it into Rasputin's head repeatedly. Finally, Rasputin stops moving. Finally, he's still. But they're not taking any chances now. They've learned their lesson. They wrap the body tightly in a curtain. They bind it with rope, and they drive it to the Petrovsky Bridge over the frozen Neva River. It's now about 4 a.m. The city is silent. The conspirators find a hole in the ice. They drop Rasputin through it into the black, freezing water below. Done. Finally, done. The body was discovered 3 days later, frozen in the ice downstream. And here's where the legend truly becomes immortal. The autopsy report, disputed by many historians, but reported by several sources at the time, indicated that Rasputin's lungs contained water, meaning he was still alive when he went into the river, meaning he survived the poison, survived being shot 4 times, survived being beaten with steel rods, and finally drowned under the ice. His arms were allegedly found in an upward position, as though he'd tried to claw his way out from under the ice. ACT 7. The truth behind the legend. So what really happened that night? Let's separate fact from legend. The poison mystery. Modern forensic experts have theories about why the cyanide didn't work, if it was even used at all. Some historians doubt Yusupov's poison story entirely, suggesting he embellished it years later to make the tale more dramatic. If cyanide was used, it might have been rendered inert by the heat used to bake the cakes, or Rasputin's chronic alcoholism might have protected him. Alcohol can slow cyanide absorption. Or, and this is the most likely scenario, the conspirators simply botched it. They were aristocrats and politicians, not assassins. They didn't know what they were doing. The resurrection, the rising from the dead moment? Medical experts point to a phenomenon called agonal breathing. Even after catastrophic chest wounds, the human body can show signs of life for several minutes. What looked like supernatural resurrection was likely Rasputin's body in its final death throes. But that doesn't explain how he got up, how he ran, how he made it across a courtyard with a bullet in his chest, unless the first shot missed his heart. It's possible Yusupov, in his nervousness, didn't hit any vital organs. The bullet might have passed through Rasputin's chest cavity without hitting anything immediately fatal. That would explain the temporary recovery, the adrenaline, the attempted escape, the drowning. As for the water in the lungs, many modern historians are skeptical. The autopsy was rushed and politically charged. The Bolsheviks, who later came to power, had every reason to embellish the story to make the aristocratic conspirators look even more brutal and incompetent. Some researchers believe Rasputin was probably already dead from the gunshot to the head before he entered the water. But here's what we know for certain. On the night of December 29, 1916, some of the most powerful men in Russia gathered to kill one peasant monk. And whether through their incompetence, his physiology, or something we'll never fully understand, it took poison, 4 bullets, a brutal beating, and a frozen river to finally stop him. Rasputin's death didn't save Russia. Just weeks later, the February Revolution began. By October, the Bolsheviks had seized power. The Tsar and his entire family were executed. The men who killed Rasputin thought they were saving the empire. Instead, they were just hastening its end. Prince Yusupov survived the revolution and lived in exile until 1967. He never stopped talking about that night. He wrote about it. He gave interviews. He told the story over and over. Some said he was proud. Others said he was haunted, because he had seen something that night that broke his understanding of reality. He had seen a man who wouldn't die. Was Rasputin a holy man? A con artist? A mystical healer? We'll never know for certain. But one thing is undeniable. He lived like no rules applied to him. And it took heaven and earth to prove that they did.